Hey, welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Fanatics. Today we're going to talk about survival. Survival of the fittest. So, real estate agents, how are you going to survive in 2023? We're going to give you a lot of tips on that coming up. However, before we begin, I have my Calendly link right here. Click on it, send me a message, and we'll schedule some time to talk. It can be about anything real estate related or not. Also, click the subscription button and like our videos. If you put any comments in there, we're happy to give away any of our tools or resources. We're a big rip-off and duplicate type thing because there's nothing new in real estate. So, what are these infamous tips to survival? There's not a lot of sexy tips. Like, it's the reality of getting back to the fundamentals and getting back to the basics. Now, probably a bunch of you guys already logged off and you're like, "Ugh, that's boring." Well, the reality of it is, it's how dialed in are you on your tactics. So let me give you some examples. Being real, like having a coach or a mentor probably becomes, especially a lot of the agents in today's market have not gone through a normal market or perhaps a declining market. So get with somebody that has, right? Find a mentor, find a coach that has, because they're going to be able to give you the most relevant knowledge around what you need to do. Here's the reality. If you've ever read Gary Keller's book, The Shift, it talks about lead generating. Like essentially, you have to double your efforts. You're in this business, no matter what you are, whether you're a seasoned agent going after referrals or past clients or whatever, to a new agent that's just knocking on doors, whatever the case may be, you're going to have to get out there and lead generate twice as hard to get the same amount of business. A lot of people aren't going to be willing to do that. They're going to see their numbers go down. Some are going to see that already had low numbers that they're going to have to go get another job, or they're going to have to get out of real estate. So here's the tip for survival, right? Is find your 2 to 3 main lead generation sources, period. Don't go chasing 7 different sources. Find 1, 2, or 3 and really get in deep with those, right? It's almost like working out, right? If you want to build big pecs, you have to work that one muscle a lot, right? If you're just doing arms and legs and abdomens and so on and so forth, you're not building that one muscle as big as it could, right? And obviously there's some, you could overtrain and some things like that, but that's another story. But the point is, like, you have to really get better at one skill. So get that one lead gen source. Obviously, calendaring becomes very critical. I think as agents, we get used to the flexible lifestyle and we don't really calculate how many hours or how many minutes of a day that isn't being intentional or being efficient. So by building a calendar out, you can really skill in or hone in on, hey, for these next 2 hours, I'm going to write 30 handwritten cards to my sphere of influence, right? And then the next day, I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours just posting on social media and or messaging people, my sphere of influence or past clients, right? Maybe the next day, I'm going to call 20 or 30 of my past clients on the phone. Right? It's about being intentional. I think we sit on a Sunday night and we're like, I have all these grand visions and I'm going to really hit a bunch of home runs this week. And then by the end of the week, you're like, maybe I only got about 25% of what I thought I'd get done. Well, if you put it on a calendar and you check it at the end of each day, you can see and measure your success and accomplishments. So calendaring is probably the most critical thing. And it may not be able to, what you used to do in 4 hours, you may need to put 6 and 8 hours in towards those efforts because it's going to take more people. But the number 2 thing that I would say is find the motivated. The Shift book talks about that. You have to go out and find the motivated. Some of these folks, you're going to have a few less cracks at the bat, if you will, with buyers and sellers moving into this market. However, you're always going to have, unfortunately, divorces. You're going to have move-ups, like we just had pregnant with twins or triplets, and we only have a 2-bedroom house now. You're going to have job transfers. You're going to have, unfortunately, deaths, estate sales, right? There's a lot of opportunities that are still there, and we just have to really focus in on how do we find those motivated opportunities, because they don't care what the market is necessarily. They're in a time of need, right? And it's a lot of times it's a positive time of need, but there's a time of need and that kind of draws that motivation. So how do you find those people, right? I mean, you might have to get business to business with some divorce attorneys or with an estate planner or whatever the case may be. There is some opportunities that if you put your time and energy into kind of 1 or 2 lead sources, maybe that's one of them. Just kind of review that a little bit is calendaring, limiting it to 2 to 3 lead generation strategies, and then finding the motivated. I know that sounds super simple, but it's not very easy, right? And they always say that word, simple, not easy. But if you really dialed in on those things and you built relationships, there was one guy that wrote a book that I really liked that was called Upstream, right? How are you find people up in the stream? Lenders and everybody else does that to us as real estate all the time. We are their upstream. Hey, send your buyers to me to get a loan quote. Roofers, hey, if you ever have an inspection on a house and it needs a roof looked at, that's me, right? We are that upstream. So how do we find others in our upstream? So those could be attorneys, right? That's like, hey, I'm sorry you guys are going through a divorce. Let's go through the paperwork. I have a realtor, that I can recommend out to you. Right? How do you get in that upstream would be another challenge that I would ask of you. Anyways, I could spend a lot of time on this topic, but for today's purposes, we just wanted to kind of cover those 3 or 4 things. So hopefully you found some helpful tips in this video. If so, hit the like button, put some comments down there. Always happy to chat with you, always happy to share any systems or tools that we have. Until then, we'll see you on the next episode.